The warning signs were there for all to see. We just didn't listen. Defeat at Lincoln City on Saturday left the Stags with a huge reality check about Sky Bet League One. Individual errors, collective errors, injuries, badly timed goals. Saturday's game at Sincil Bank really did have it all. And it left Stags fans reeling a little bit, wondering if they really have got enough in the tank to go through this League One season, especially with defensive fatalities racking up. Join us to have your say on your team. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, where reality checks are clear for all to see, but ones in which we're ignoring. Hello and welcome to the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. It's great to have you with us this evening and yes, to talk all things Mansfield Town once again. I'm joined, as always, by a full panel of Mansfield Town supporters, some of which are staying the full journey. Others, we're transferring out for a box of curly whirlies. More on that in a couple of minutes. Let's say hello to them. They're going to pop up on that side of the screen. If I do this right, there they are. There's four of them. Where's one disappeared to? One's disappeared over there. We'll let him back in. We'll unmute everybody else and we'll say hello and good evening. First and foremost, let's go from top to bottom. Here he is. I can't get him because there's live things in the way to put him full screen. Hello, Cameron.
Good afternoon, good evening. Everyone all right?
Yeah, I'm sure we are. Let's say hello and good evening to Mr. Alan Wilson. Hello, Mr. Alan.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Let's say hello and good evening to a man who might be responding in about 4 hours. Evening, Jim. Nope, not a thing. Absolutely not a thing. I might have to get him on the phone in a little bit. Technology and Jim, I don't know. And let's say hello and good evening to a man who was sending out a phone in about half an hour's time to a Stockport County podcast. Evening, Clive.
Good evening, everybody.
Not big. It's not clever. Oh dear. I'll get Jim on the phone in a couple of minutes. Let's delve in straight away, shall we? And remind people, if they want to have their say on their team, you can do so in the comments below. Get involved and have your say on your team.
Do we have to?
That's sort of the point of the show, isn't it, really? And a timely reminder as well that the views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individuals. Get involved in the comments and have your say on your team now. Right, let's delve straight into it, shall we? And let's have a look and cast our minds back to Sincil Bank on Saturday afternoon. Clive and Alan, you both went along. Cam, you did as well. And for all three of you, I imagine there were better ways to spend your Saturday afternoons, Cam.
Yeah, I could have spent it in Starbucks instead, and I think I'd have had more enjoyment. It was just a bit grim, weren't it, lads, really? I think the worst thing was that nobody saw that coming. We knew we were going to get beat at some point, but I didn't expect us to get humbled in the way that we did. And in the manner that we did it, we just rolled over and handed the game to Lincoln. And that's not very Mansfield, especially under Nigel Clough. And I think that's probably the most disappointing thing from Saturday for me.
I think that's a weird thing to say, because you say there, Cam, that nobody expected that. But Clive, the warning signs, like I said in the intro, have been there since after the half an hour mark at Rotherham.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's certainly when we played the 3-3 draw out at home last week. I think we could all see that the team is a little bit brittle at the moment, and obviously you then get one of our most reliable players have a bad game, as indeed Flint did, and we look very porous. And on Saturday, the other most reliable player in our books was Pim, and he had a shocker. I mean, you could blame him for 2 of the goals, I think, but the team the defensive line in front of him wasn't good enough. Now you could argue that our best players are injured, which they are, I guess. And you could easily also argue that we're playing strikers as fullbacks, which we are. We did that last year and got away with it a lot of the time. I just don't think we'll get away with it this season in the same way.
I think it's like we've been saying for a long time, Alan, isn't it, about getting away with things. There's a very vast difference in the levels between League One and League Two. Like we were saying, last week, sometimes you miss your chances and you get away with it and still win games. We didn't last week against Burton. We sort of gave the game away a little bit. And then likewise, playing players out of position, square pegs in round holes. Yes, you can argue that, Jordan Bowery and Lucas Akins are equipped to be in that back line, but there's also a positional element in that, which we'll come on to later on. But the key thing to highlight there, Alan, is, like Clive just said, we are going to get found out. And the other worry to add on top of it, Al, is whether if Aidan Flint is not fit on Saturday afternoon as we face Stockport, who else are we going to put in the back four? We are really low on numbers in an area where we're really weak at the moment.
Well, I think in my opinion, for the first 28 minutes, Mansfield were as good as Lincoln. We had more possession. We just didn't utilise on it. And once the two poor goals went in, especially the one before Killers, you could see that. And, straight after half time again, another 2 goals, and you're always going to struggle. But after their second one went in the second half, and he changed a bit of a formation, we didn't seem to have an awful lot of worry from them. It was huff and puff stuff. And, we'd got quite a lot of the possession again. But, it's like you say, we will be found out eventually, but it's just sorting out in between time. Because, like I say, for the first 28 minutes, we were as good as Lincoln. I don't think Lincoln is as good as people make out. They say, oh, they battered Mansfield. They didn't batter us. We made our own mistakes, and they capitalised on it. And that's the difference. I don't think that, you couldn't say they're all over us and we took a battering. We made the mistakes and they capitalised on it. And we've got to learn on that. We've got to learn very quickly.
The scoreline did flatter them, Cam, in some respects, because like Alan said, the first 20 minutes, it was a very even game, but it's the same patterns, repeating themselves now. As soon as we concede a goal, we look so vulnerable.
Yeah, we do. But yeah, they didn't completely outplay us, and that probably is the worst thing. But it makes it even more frustrating that when we did concede, we rolled over. We conceded the first one. I know what we're going to do. We're going to give them a soft second. We come out for the second half. What do? We gave them 2 quick early goals. It was just frustrating because we did look dangerous going forward, but like we've been saying for the last 2 podcasts, we've created chances, but we've not took them. And Saturday was very much another one of those. And we were saying it's going to come back and bite us. It's going to come back and bite us. And we'd not sort of like tested ourselves as such against any other opposition. Rotherham, the anomaly in that because it was in a crap cup. They're not doing brilliant anyway, but it was very frustrating the fact that we more than matched them for most of the game, but in the moments that counted, we rolled over and they took their chances.
You say that, Cameron. We had more than the share of possession throughout the game, and certainly, as Alan says, in the first 25 minutes, we were the better of the 2 sides on the park. But during that time, we never penetrated their final third, and that's what they were. I mean, Alan pointed it out to me because I hadn't clocked it. They let us play. They let us play in our half. They let us play on the halfway line. They just said, get on with it, because we weren't penetrating at all their defensive lineup. Their keeper never had a shot to save. I say we've got a team which has to fire on all cylinders to do well in this league. We had Quinn, who had a nightmare of a game. In fact, the only contribution was a very early booking. DKD may as well have stopped on the bus, and Pim decided he's no longer a goalkeeper for the day. So you can't get away with it.
Speaking of people who are on the bus, one person who's on the bus to Curry's PC World and other IT shops are available is Jim Evans. Jimmy, you there? Can you hear us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go. We've got him.
It's Jim, look.
We've got him on the phone. Jim, obviously you heard a lot of that. We were just talking there about Lincoln and the impact of it. And I think one thing we've sort of been talking about in the group chat a lot, and sort of between ourselves, in fact we watched the game together on Saturday, didn't we? We were sort of saying when we concede a goal, we seem very, very vulnerable. And we said at the end of the game, with Flint off and things like that, we're a little bit worried, aren't we, about defensive cover, and especially as Nigel Clough seems to be keeping these 3 squad spots available for, Alfie Kilgore, Rhys Oates and George Maris. It does seem like a little bit of a risk, albeit a calculated one, if it pays off, Jim.
Yeah, but I think our bigger problem is not just the defence; it's the whole team. I think we're still a bit soft underbelly in midfield. When we play Reed and DKD together, and it was the same last season. And teams are just walking through the midfield far too easily for me, exposing the back four all the time. And surprise, surprise, we end up conceding goals because we're just too easy to play through. And it is like Clive touched on. We have to be firing on all cylinders to perform. We're a bit like an old Alfa Romeo. When we're good, but most of the time we're broken down. And to me, I just think we need to be a bit more pragmatic, get Dave back in midfield and just, find it out a bit more, which is what teams seem to do in this league, which suggests that's how you have to play to get results.
Yeah, so
Jim, just on that point of Reed was doing 2 man's work on Saturday, and the lad had got nothing to apologise for. He was the hardest working player on the park. But he hadn't got support, and DKD was nebulous at all, if anything. I mean, he was. I feel sorry for the lad because he's now becoming desperate to perform again, and whatever happened over the last month with regards to transfers, etc., it's messed with his head, I think, and his game suffered from it. And we haven't really got anybody else with Maris out the side, and we haven't got rid of our previous captain. I don't think we've got that little bit of edge in the midfield that we need. So Clough's talking about getting the forward in. I think we're a bit barren in the middle of the park.
I agree. Yeah, I think we're still soft underbellied, and that's a problem. I mean, it's not just Reed's fault. I mean, I think it's just set up to fail at the moment. It really is, and we just need to get more solid. For me,
we looked a lot better when Hiram came on.
Oh, don't tell Nick. Do not tell Nick. Nick will be loving that.
In fact, you could make a case for Hiram Boateng being man of the match.
In my opinion, he was. He only played 45 minutes, but it was superb. Everything he did.
In a
He
4-1
wasn't frightened to get. It wasn't frightened to get the ball, get on the ball, make a pass, take the pass back, and move it forward. I thought he was the best man on the pitch when he came on.
If it was up to me, he'd start on Saturday against Stockport in goal.
I think he probably will start regardless on Saturday against Stockport. Cam, is it we're talking there about midfield and sort of being a little bit light. I think realistically, there's two sides of the coin there. We're very heavy in attack-minded midfield players. Stephen Quinn, Keanu Bacchus, Lewis Reed to an extent, Hiram Boateng. What we are light in is defensive-minded players. Yes, you could argue that will alleviate a little bit when we get Dave back into the midfield area, but I don't think we ever will. I think Nigel Clough will do what he did with Ollie Hawkins back in the day now and look at him solely as a defender. He's talking about bringing a couple of forward in at least. Surely we need a defensive-minded midfield player, don't we? Maybe someone that can do the same job as Dave, sit in the midfield defensively, but also drop into the back four as needed, because that is clearly the leak at the minute. That's clearly the soft underbelly, Cam.
Yeah, it is. And just on sort of like the forward thing, I feel sorry for Will Evans, Lee Gregory and Davo, because nothing was coming from the defence or the midfield. There was no, every time the ball was lumped forward, it was too long, or it was straight on top of the head of a defender, or the pass would just be really bad. I think Lewis Reed had a really bad game passing-wise. He great passing the ball sideways, but going forward, we really struggled with. And the odd chance that we did get into the position where we could create something, we tried to walk it into the net. And the amount of passes between the sort of like Reed and whoever it is on the wing was ridiculous. It was just back and forth constantly. We didn't create anything because nobody had the balls to stick it into the box. And I think we're now coming up against opposition that, they will just let you play. If you're not going to do anything with it, they're just tiring themselves out. And we were very good at it last season, letting teams play a little bit and then catching them when they least expect it and breaking. Well, now the shoe's very much on the other foot, and we're coming an absolute cropper. So, yeah, but like we've been saying, we are very much missing somebody that will just grab the game by the scruff of the neck, because for Lincoln's goals, it was just, there's no fight, and they're just waltzing straight through the middle of us. Reed daren't put a tackle in because he's a little bit too heavy-handed. Quinn gets booked for daft things, so then can't put a tackle in, and Bacchus just can't seem to tackle. But another one, he tried to walk. Every time he got forward, instead of passing, he just tried to run through the defenders. It was frustrating.
The instruction clearly is to get balls into the box and not to shoot from long range, which, in my opinion, I think is a negative choice to make at this level. We need to be testing
both.
We need to do the variety. We need to be testing goalkeepers, and when we've got an opportunity to shoot, get the shot away. And otherwise, we've become so one-dimensional in the way we play. It becomes frustrating. Let's have a little look at some comments. Keep them coming in. Have your say on your team. I'm going to start with this one from Ross Allen, who is talking about Lewis Brunt, who says, I think Brunt last season covered Flint's lack of pace last season, and it's being found out this time around. We are sort of missing a little bit of pace in there. I mean, Dave, to his credit, he has got a little bit of pace. He can go forward. He does like to go forward, can plan that left-hand side. But at this level, I think that Ross has got a little bit of a point in there, Alan, that Aidan Flint is being found out a little bit. But I am going to throw the caveat in there that he's clearly playing with an injury and probably has been for longer than what we've been led to believe. Yeah,
I would agree with that to say about the injury. But as regards, Brunt being his pace buddy, if you like, they both suited each other. To be fair, last season it worked well. Yeah. Well, at the moment, him and Deji may not be working quite as well as what him and Brunt did. But can I be devil's advocate here? In the first 28 minutes, what would have happened if we'd have got a goal? That turns everything on its head again. Okay, we had the defensive frailties and everything else, but you put one in the onion bag and it's a completely different story. And I don't think there's any need to, throw all spanners up and, take a big hoo-ha about it. It was a poor performance on the day. They've got a chance to sort it out Saturday, irrespective whether Flint's there or not. So, somebody will take his place because they've got to, Craig. Simple as.
Is that very much going to be the way that we're going to play all season, though? Heavy pressure in the first 25. Try and get, like we did at Barnsley, hit teams early, sit back and defend. Well, not sit back and defend, but not having to press as heavily because we're not the ones chasing the game. Is that going to be our tactic this season?
I think that all depends on the game and who you're playing, Cam.
It just, because we created so many chances against Rotherham. We did it against Burton and scored. We did it against Barnsley and scored twice. So you just look at the games that we've played, and that very much screams we're just going to attack, hope that we score, and if it doesn't, it goes tits up.
Clive, I'd slightly disagree to an extent because Nigel Clough has experimented on a few occasions now with this back five to try and steady it. He did that at the start of the second half at Lincoln, albeit, we got caught with 2 early goals, which was clearly their game plan. They'd rocked us with the goal just before half-time. And I think, like Alan said a little bit, devil's advocate, we go in at 1-0 down. It's a different second half because we come out and go at them. They knew we were going to change shape, and their instruction was to come at us and to rock us early. And they did it with a cheap goal and a goal which you hold your hands up and say, fair enough. And all of a sudden we're 4-0 down. But we have tried to change shape a little bit. And with personnel and things like that, I think it might be a wise idea just to maybe start with that back five. And I think that the next big thing for me, Clive, is not looking to get a win on the board. It's more looking to keep a clean sheet because we are leaking and we need to send that message out that teams can't just walk through us anymore like they have been doing for the opening first 3 league games of the season.
Yeah, first thing to say is it's too early to get despondent. We are a new team in this division. We've come up from a lower place in the pecking order. We've entered the start of this season, as we always seem to do at the moment, with a bag full of injuries, and Clough is having to make use of players out of position, the old square pegs in round holes things again. Now, as I said earlier, that you can get away with that at one level. I don't think we're going to get away with it as easily this year. And so we do have to reform that. And whether that's going to a different back line, I don't know. But I don't understand, if he's fit, why we're not playing Macca, for instance. And what's wrong with Williams? He gets injured blowing his nose, the lad does. What's wrong with him? Sorry, go on.
Nigel said that in his interview, neither Macca or Hewitt were fit to start. They're not ready for 90 minutes. That's why they came on late. But, that will change eventually, won't it?
Well, you'd assume so. I'm probably a bit irritated by the time it takes for modern professional athletes to get back on their feet. Yeah. Who was it? Reedy got a whack on the leg, and my first thoughts was that's for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I'll be delighted if it's less than that. But
now we'll be there Saturday.
And I do think that we I'm not having a go at our club in particular. I just think it's the modern idiom where teams have big squads so they can allow players to take very relaxed recovery periods. In my day, you got up and put your leg back on and carried on. I just think we have to, we need tougher players. Cargill, bless him, not Cargill, Alfie Kilgore, he was made of rock and you'd expect him to have stood anything up. And then, of course, the bad luck was he snapped his Achilles. No one could have legislated for that. And long-term injuries, I suppose they've always happened. I've just not been as conscious of them in my experience of watching Mansfield Town as I have in the last 2 or 3 years.
Jim, do you want to pick up on that?
I share Clark's frustrations. I can remember sort of 20, 30 years ago, in August, your whole squad was fit. It just seems these days, in August, half your team's already injured, and it just seems baffling to me. And I also slightly agree with Alan. I think we shouldn't be too knee-jerk about Lincoln. 2 or 3 mistake goals. If you take them out, you potentially get a point. But I think it's clear that there's a problem with the amount of exposure the defence is getting. And I don't just think that's an injury thing. I think the midfield he's playing is his first choice midfield, but for me it just doesn't work. But I think there's slight issues all around. But Clive's right; it's too early to get despondent. Let's let things settle down and see how things pan out.
Well, we've got about 5 more minutes of Clive before we loan him out for a box of curly whirlies. So let's pick up on this point a little bit. And that's what Martin has said. We'll delve into different bits of it. I'll read the full comment and then I'll choose the bit I want to delve in more. Will Boyle is available at Wrexham. Great defender. We should get him in my opinion. Kilgore will take at least 3 months to get match fit. Cargill is still struggling. We need players in ASAP. Otherwise, we're going to get hammered every week. Now, I'm going to leave that last part and I'm going to leave the first part. What I want to focus on here, Clive, is Kilgore, at least 3 months potentially to get a match fit. I know he's rumoured to be sort of back late October, early November. I was alluded to it earlier, Clough is sort of leaving these 3 squad spaces for Rhys Oates, for Alfie Kilgore, for George Maris. In my opinion, I think he needs to sacrifice one of those and bring in some cover, whether or not they play 3 games between now and January or whatever. Bring somebody else in that can play in a number of positions across that back line, but someone who is natural in that defensive area, because putting all our eggs in this basket of saving 3 spaces for an injured player, well, what happens if in 2 or 3 months' time, at the end of October, they get another knockback, another setback?
It's effectively 4 because it's saving one for Rhys Oates as well, isn't it?
I said Oates, Maris and Kilgore, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm all in favour of reserving an opportunity for Maris. And I think if you had to choose one of the other 2, it would be Kilgore, because we were going to build our team around Alfie Kilgore. And he hasn't brought that injury on himself, which can't be said of Mr. Oates. I just think he's become a bit of a liability. And I like the lad a lot, and I really don't wish him any harm. But he's a bit of a luxury we can't afford in the present circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, do you want to just pick up on the back of that? I know you're a big advocate of trying to get players back in, and I think you try and be the calm head on everyone's shoulders. But it is surely, you've got to admit that if you were Nigel Clough and you had the opportunity to bring in one player, your first thought would be a defensive-minded player and not another striker. Surely,
I would. Yeah, I would say so. But I would also say that surely when Bailey Cargill comes back, hopefully he'll have an extended run in the team, and you're not going to have a problem with what we've got now. But on the basis of the defence, I think a special mention ought to go to Lucas Akins and Jordan Barry, because obviously playing out the skins in places they're not used to playing, as it were, apart from being attackers. But I thought Akins had a really good first half on Saturday, to be fair. But, I think a special mention goes to them as well, because they're doing a job. Whether they like it or not, they've got to go there.
I felt a lot for Jordan Bowery on Saturday, Cam. He does get a lot of hammer, but of course he was playing left back. And me and Jim were having this discussion. If you're a natural right footer playing on the left-hand side at left back of a back 4, you're turning yourself inside out. Your body position is never going to be right. You're naturally going to take a lot of flack. And I think a little bit Jordan Bowery is being hoisted by the petard of being forced to play out there. And he had no reason to, because Stephen McLaughlin came on. He could have played 45 minutes, maybe got an hour out of him. Callum McDonald could have probably done the same. Why have we got these players there and not utilising them? We have 5 subs for a reason. I felt Jordan Bowery was a little bit put in the firing line by Nigel Clough on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and it's his choice to put him there. Yeah, we could get 45 out of Elliott and Maka. So why are we putting the players in these positions? And yeah, talking about Bowery, it's just like he's comfortable on both feet, but he's more predominantly right-footed. But it just makes you too predictable. Every time you get forward, you know that you're going to have to turn back inside to deliver the ball in. So it just becomes easy to defend. And same again, we didn't even get to that point. Every time we did get the ball there and needed someone to swing it in, they didn't want to swing it in. And I think that's the most frustrating thing, that because we are playing the types of players where we are, let's be real, Jordan Bowery and Lucas Akins, they're not natural crossers of the ball. They're not. Their minds aren't on being able to get a good ball into the box because they're forwards. You don't find yourselves in these positions very often. And if it wasn't for the fact that we'd got such injury problems, they wouldn't be anywhere near the back line. The reason why Bowery went there last season because we needed him to.
And there's the difference there, Jim, though, as well, is, we had the conversation, didn't we, on Saturday about him playing left back and sort of being body position, body shape out of there. But when he went to centre back in sort of the back five or the back three, whichever way you want to look at it, he was much better. And I think, so you can class him as a defender, but his positionally, it's still very frail and very early days. And yet we're relying on him so heavily, it's almost unfair.
It is unfair because, like you said, we did have Macca on the bench. But I think the thing with Nigel Clough is he very much has his favourites, doesn't he? He has his inner circle of players who can do no wrong. And he wherever he has to put them, he has to get them in the team. And which is a good thing if you're in that circle because you're going to play every week. But you'll end up in a place that you're not comfortable with. And I think League Two, you get away with it a bit more. But League One, we're finding out very much straight away that if you're lacking in any department, it will be exposed. It will be felt over very quickly and exposed. But it is what it is. I think this is just a feature of Clough, isn't it? You just have to accept it. We all have his favourites in his way. And, they go with it or get somebody else. But I think you just got to trust him, trust him to deliver overall over the season.
Let's pick up on another point. By the way, Jim, we've now lost Clive. Clive has hot-footed. We've sent him out on a loan deal to the Scarf Bagara War podcast for half an hour or so. He has left his prediction, though. So if just in case you fancied asking Clive a question, he ain't there, just to let you know. Yep. Still with us, though, Cam and Alan. Alan, I'm going to come to you. I want to have a little go back to sort of where we're feeling light a little bit because I've just spotted this from Jody, who says, I was shocked and disappointed when Ollie Clark left us, and now I feel like we're really missing him in midfield. It just goes to show, doesn't it, sometimes how that you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And I don't feel like we've ultimately replaced him yet. Dave was definitely the replacement for him, but circumstance elsewhere has seen him shuffle a little bit further back.
And I mean, when we played at home against Burton, or should I say Barnsley, or both, Bacchus looked the ultimate midfielder. But he struggled a bit on Saturday, but I think that will change. I think he'll come into his own, given time. But yeah, I said right along that we would miss Ollie Clark, same as we do Maris. You know what my feelings are on Giorgio Mauricio. We do miss him when he's not playing, but we've got to get other players and they've got to come up, they've got to step up to the plate, Craig. It's as simple as that. We're in League One.
I think the other thing to think about as well, Cam, we spoke about this a little bit at the start of the season, didn't we? And sort of we've alluded to it, is we have stepped up a level. We can't win at games every week. We're not going to do that in this league. It's all about survival for us this season. And that means that we will get turned over by teams. We will get heavily beaten by teams. We will get played off the park by teams at times. We've got to take the rough with the smooth. And equally, and that's why we've not gone into it in too much depth, there will be individual mistakes by certain players. Christy Pym, for example, cost us 2 goals, in my opinion, on Saturday. But that doesn't distract from the fact that he's a very good keeper for this level. He's been a very good servant to the club over the last couple of seasons or so, and will continue to do so in the coming weeks. We just got to bite our tongue a little bit and just suck in the air.
Yeah, you think of it this way. Pimmy was Golden Glove winner a few years ago in this league. So, obviously, circumstances outside of actual football decided that he was gone. But it's frustrating that I think some people have turned against the players. I think some of the players that maybe fans have turned against, it's not saying it's ever a good thing to say anything about players or whatever, but I think some that just bring it on themselves just not performing. I'm thinking more Callum McDonald. He solves a problem that we've got, but in the games that he's given a chance, my goodness, I wanted to stick pins in my eyes at that Rotherham game. He was awful. But he just proves how much Clough doesn't trust a player, that even though we've got no other option at left back other than an injured Macca or a not fully fit Macca, he still won't play Callum McDonald, who played most of the game. He played most of the game or all the game at Rotherham?
All the game, I think.
Yeah.
What did he do today? Played for the 21s.
Didn't he today? Yeah.
Yet we're still complaining that we've not got a left-sided. So we are in a bad position player-wise, as in injuries, but surely Nigel's got to shoulder some blame himself and be like, yes, I got this wrong, I need to fix it. Well, we're now, 3-4 days from the window closing, and we have still not got more than one option as an out-and-out left-back. Because we play... Same again. Fraser Blake-Tracy is not an out-and-out left-back. Bailey Cargill, not an out-and-out left-back. They're both left-sided centre-backs. Yes, they can play there, but I'd much rather see them playing in centre-mid. If we could have a centre-mid, a centre-defence partnership as a back five of Flynn, Cargill and Tracy, automatically that's a load better, but then you've got no options
in a back three. Disjointed much.
Well, we could, but that's the thing. But that would solve our problems. But we've got that many bloody injury problems everywhere that yes, Clive can bugger off. Sorry, I've just seen his comment. Is Richard Narty available as a free agent? No, definitely not. But it is frustrating, and we need reinforcements, even just until January. But we're saying this, we've got the exact same problem, but on the right-hand side as well. George Williams isn't fit 100% of the time. Elliot Hewitt isn't fit. And you can't keep playing Barry and Akins there because, like on Saturday, we're just getting done over because tactically they're very, very good players. And we got away with it at League Two, but League One players, you look at Birmingham spending 15 million quid, and we've not even got a second choice right back or left back.
No, we have. They're just in the injury, aren't they? Jim, I want to come on to a different comment and just talk a little bit about squad selection again and those numbers, and just pick on that left back situation a little bit there. We were talking about Callum McDonald's, arguably in terms of options. Let's say everybody is fully fit, so you've got Tracy, who I agree with the comments, by the way. I think Cam's wrong about him. I think he looks a good fit at left back, and I think he'd be a great left wing back if we played a back five actually as well. So Tracy, Stephen McLaughlin, Callum McDonald, Bailey Cargill, Jordan Bowery, 5 choices arguably at left back. Let's now delve into them a little bit more. Clearly his preferred choice is Tracy. His second preferred choice is Jordan Bowery, for whatever reason that may be. Then it's Stephen McLaughlin. Then it's probably, if he's fit, Bailey Cargill, then Callum McDonald. So the question I'm going to put to you, Jim, is why is Callum McDonald here? Why do we not free up a squad space by sending him out on loan and bringing somebody else in, or even transferring him out? Nigel Clough is clearly only going to use him when nobody else is available. That's not a slant on the lad at all. I want to see every player that's at Mansfield Town perform and do well. But clearly he is 5th in the pecking order, and it's a waste of squad space, especially when he's being so pernickety about saving 3 for the 3 Crocs.
I agree. He might have tried to get him out, but it might be a case of nobody's come in for him. He'll have to be on a certain contract, and if nobody's come in for him, then he might be stuck with him a little bit. But I mean, what's more disappointing for me, Craig, is what we've been doing all summer. We've had 3 months to get our house in order. And it still feels like, even though we've had 3 months, we've still got a lot of questions about the squad. That's a bit disappointing, I think, that we've not started the season with everything that we realistically need. We knew we weren't going to win the league. We knew we weren't going to be sort of top 6. But to not sort of, be organised at the ceiling we could be at, I think is a little bit disappointing. Yeah. And we just have to hope that over the next 48 hours, there's something, there's a plan in place. But listening to all his interviews, he wants 2 forwards. I mean, I don't know what he's been smoking, but, it must be pretty good. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, ultimately, he's going to have to live and die by his own decisions. And, if he gets it wrong, what happens there. But so it's only fair. He has the right to pick who comes in and who doesn't. But it's just a bit of an anticlimax for me. We should have been ready, and we're not. But yeah.
Before we take a break, Alan, I do want to sort of pick up on another thing as well. We know how Nigel Clough likes to move people about a little bit. There's a lot of talk in the comments about Aaron Lewis and him sort of being a right wing back before he start with us again. I agree. I think, like we said at the start of last season, him and Callum Johnson down that right hand side looked a good pairing.
Yeah.
But what I was going to highlight is, we're talking about left-sided options. One option I forgot down the left-hand side, and it happened on Saturday against Lincoln, although we blinked and missed it. There was a period where Will Evans played left wing back.
Yeah, I saw that. I can remember seeing that. Also, young Ben Quinn did a little tiny bit when he came on. But yeah, it'd be nice to see Aaron Lewis. I'm wondering if he's been tried there and it's not gone to plan for whatever reason. I mean, Nigel obviously knows he played right back. Everybody knows he played right back. Now, for whatever reason, he's playing in midfield. But I agree with the Callum Johnson and Aaron Lewis. When they were together, they're both firing on all cylinders. It looked really good. But, that the same as again, that was League 2. Now, the step up, is it different again? Get a few of these injuries back and let's see what we do then.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. Anything Mansfield Town related you want to talk about, please do. Let me run through a couple of the comments before we take a quick break. In terms of, I'm going to save that one actually for after the break. In terms of the Rotherham game, Ross says it was painful to watch. I think him referring to Callum McDonald and Aaron Lewis aren't League One level. Survival is what we need this season. We didn't win on Saturday, but we learned from mistakes, says Stags Chat. Whatever your view, must be a confidence hit for C-Mac and Macca in terms of the left-back positioning. Saying about Aaron Lewis, he won Player of the Season for Newport playing right wing-back. He's not a midfielder. Carl, on the other hand, says the current number 8 can't lace the former number 8's boots.
Number 8 is Aaron Lewis, by the way.
Yeah. Hold on.
So asking in the comments, that's all.
All right, okay, I didn't spot that. Are players like Aaron Lewis, George Williams, Callum McDonald good enough for League One? Asks Paul. And will Nigel's stubbornness be his downfall? I think it's a little bit too early to be talking about that. And Richard says, I asked the same question on Facebook about Callum McDonald on Saturday as to why he is still here. Feel sorry for the lad, to be honest. Clearly knows he's not in the plans at all. But how Bowery gets in ahead of him, I don't know. He was brought in last season to fill the void left by Macca, but he's hardly played. Yeah, the Bowery one, we've touched upon that a little bit. And like I said, I feel a little bit sorry for him on that front. More on that in a couple of minutes' time. Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. But first, it's time to blow the halftime whistle and take a break. You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. Joining me, Cam Felton, Alan Wilson, and on the phone, Jim Evans. Let's delve into this one then, Jim. A comment which has come in on our Facebook feed tonight. And I think it's a valid point as well. And it comes from Stags Chat, who says, we needed that loss. just to have one. Now we can step up, hopefully get additional players, and just need to work at it as its survival is what we need this season. You know what? The point, I think, in there, Jim, is the fact that a loss at this stage of the season is not a bad thing because it highlights that there is different levels, and it's the proverbial wet fish slap around the face, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I think a loss at any time of the season, whoever you are, I think it gets everything out on the table, doesn't it? It gets everything looked at, no cracks get papered over, and it makes you look at yourself and it makes you improve. So, I think it is a good thing. I do agree with that, and it's also a week before the window shuts if they prove to act on that. But I think it is. I mean, it was the worst performance of the season by a long way. But I absolutely agree with the comment. It does. It gets everybody's eyes open to some realities, and it is a positive.
It's an interesting one because you also look at it on the other hand. Does it also not show that there's different levels within this league as well? Because you look at the gap between those at the top from last season to those at the bottom, vast differences. So obviously, the teams coming down from the Championship have got money. I mean, it's brilliant seeing them down the road, absolutely tanking it, and not long till Fat Boy gets a sack. But it just shows that even established League One clubs struggle against the teams that are always up near the top. You look, Burton have been here for God knows how long, and they've survived by the skin of the teeth season after season, ever since Nigel left, ironically. But you then look at the teams that have come into the division, and they're just miles ahead. And I think it just, obviously, Barnsley missed out in the playoffs last season. Lincoln missed out just on the playoffs. But Burton survived with a game to spare. So, Alan, does it not show that not only do we need to wake up to the fact that we are in League One, but also the fact that there is such a large gap between the teams in League One themselves?
Yeah, I agree to a certain point, Cam, but, it's every Saturday. I mean, we could go Saturday and we could give Stockport, we could end up winning 2-0.
Well, we had Stockport's number last season, didn't we?
Yeah, there's nothing to stop us doing that. But it's just, it's like on a little bit of a downer. I mean, we've got these problems with the injuries. We've got problems with playing players out of position because he's got to at this present time with the injuries or not trusting people, whatever it may be. But, it could all change again on Saturday, and we could all be euphoria because we've beat top at league. They've had a good start. We haven't had a good start, but like Simon Wilson said, 4 points out of 9. I think a lot of people might have took that, a win, a loss, and a draw. It's not that bad.
Do you know what? It's the average which keeps you in the division, and that's all you can ask for. Just be bang average. And I don't think we're the worst team in this division. It has only just started, sort of early doors. There's a lot of stuff, still sort of happening, and more to come in sort of future weeks and things like that. The table will sort itself out as we go along. But at the end of the day, we've just got to sort of grin and bear it. But the big thing for me, Jim, now is, transfer window. We can't ignore it. We've got until, I think it's Friday when the window closes. And Nigel Clough's talking a lot about bringing in a forward player. We've really got to, I don't know. Do you believe that anyone will come in, or will whether he'll do any business? And do you think it'll be the right business? Do you trust essentially Nigel Clough's transfer business and transfer dealings based on what he's done so far, or do you let the head overrule the heart in terms of the defeat to Lincoln and the clear defensive fatalities which are there, adding into the mix Aidan Flint's injury?
I think, I watched his interview this afternoon. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
And he said it'll be 2 in, 3 out. Now, I've noticed with him, when it gets to the end of windows, he notoriously keeps his cards very close to his chest, doesn't he? So, I wouldn't be surprised to see incomings that he's not hinted towards. So, I would watch this space. I think he said he just wants 2 forwards, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if somebody else walks through the door who we weren't expecting. So, I mean, do I trust him? I think the club's recruitment process since they've arrived has been a bit hit and miss and a bit puzzling at times. But so it's not really a case of trusting. It's just hoping they get it right. And ultimately, even though I think Clough's got a lot of time after getting promoted in terms of from John Radford, I don't think he's like in danger of losing his job. I think ultimately, if you don't perform as a manager, you're looking at one result, aren't you? You're looking at one outcome. But I just hope he has. I hope he does get it right, because otherwise it's just all a little bit disappointing. But I do trust him. I think he knows the division very, very well. And yeah, I think he's got enough about him to sort something out. So I don't think we should panic. And these players are going to come back soon. So yeah, I think, see how it pans out. But I'm not panicking yet.
Now, Alan, the final sort of talk about on the pitch and transfers and things like that, because I'm sure we'll review it in the next episode as well. You know me, I hate paying ridiculous prices for sausage rolls. No, I hate rumours. I dislike them. I don't like to talk about them. I find them irritating. I like facts and things when they happen, but can't ignore this one. Luke Bolton is rumoured heavily to be joining us from Wrexham, of course, former Salford, always played well for Salford against us. Right wing back, can play right midfield as well, can play right back, would give us options. For the first time in a very long time, I want this rumour to be true. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it would be a positive signing, in my opinion, very positive signing, because he did play well for Salford. But I just have a wonder, when he went to Wrexham, because he hasn't been there that long, has he? Was it last year he went to Wrexham? Last season, or was it the season before? I think it was last season. I mean, has he just gone down the pecking order? Or, is there a reason why he has left? But, past appearances, when I've seen him and, how he crosses the ball and how he takes a man on, it would be a very good signing. But can you remember back to the first podcast, Craig, what we all said? And quite a lot of people in the comments on that day said the same as well. As well as Nigel. 10 games. Give us 10 games and let's see where we are.
And the law of averages says we're all right. Ben in the comments, Cam says Bolton couldn't get in the side for Wrexham. Is that good enough for us? I think the other thing to caveat from that, which is what I was saying in there as well, is Wrexham have done what Wrexham do. They signed players suitable for that level and suitable for their squad at that time, and they've injected more money again at this level, and they've signed players who are a step above. They've thrown money at it, and therefore he's just fallen out the pecking order. I remember him playing against us on the game on Sky where Elliot Hewitt got crocked in the first minute. So he has been playing semi-regular for him. I just don't think he can get in this season, particularly Cam, which, you know what, we'd take him because he's a target actually we'd identified and perhaps spoken about in previous podcasts prior to his decision to chase appearing on the documentary.
He ripped us limb from limb playing for Salford when they smacked us for 5. I can't even remember who was playing left back that day. Might have been Bowery, to be fair, but whoever it was, he pulled us limb from limb. He's got pace. He knows how to cross the ball. He knows how to take a man on. He's brilliant, and I don't necessarily think it says much about him as a player or as a person that he can't get into that Wrexham side, because, like we've alluded to many times, they were signing Championship players in the National League, and they're still signing Championship players in League 2, and they've done it in League 1. So I don't necessarily think that's anything against him. I just see that as they are just spaffing a ridiculous amount of money away on players, and they're basically signing the best players from each league the year after. He was brilliant for Salford. Obviously, they missed out on the playoffs against Stockport. Had they have gone up, would he have gone to Wrexham? I don't know. They stayed in that division. They sold him, and he played well for Wrexham, and he got promoted with them. So quite clearly, he's a capable player, and he's very much a player that we probably could do with at the moment. Maybe not necessarily him as a player. I think anybody that had fit the bill,
Certainly that position, I think.
It could be any player. It just so happens to be him.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything other than that. I think it's just we know where we're weak. We know where we've got injuries, and I appreciate that someone like Elliot Hewitt and Stephen McLaughlin have been at the club for quite a while now. But realistically, we've also then got to look at, are they able to make the step up to League One? We're not seeing enough to make that decision, but are they fit enough to compete at League One? And then that's where you really have to start asking questions, because they can't play in 90 minutes. Not even close. And I know they've both had injuries, but they've both been long or mid-term injuries for the last 2-3 years. So it's very frustrating, because out and out in League Two, they were two of our best players. And it's frustrating, because they're very good players and they're great people. But if they're not going to be fit enough, they're not going to be able to play. Like we've been saying about Callum McDonald, obviously he's slipped completely down the pecking order. If we're not going to play him, or they're not able to play because they're injured all the time, then is there any worth in keeping them?
Well, let's pick up on this comment as well from Roy Jim, who says, do we know, is our budget good enough to keep us up there? And aren't we getting a bit ahead of ourselves? Fifth bottom is good enough for me. Agree with the last bit. The budget thing is a different thing. It's an interesting subject. I wonder if it will be brought up on Friday's evening with the Radfords or not, because a lot of the transfers that we've made historically, Jim, under Nigel Clough, very little money is involved. They tend to be free transfers, albeit good ones and good solid additions. We don't tend to spend a lot of money, but that could just be the way that he works. It might not be a directive. We don't know, do we?
Well, I think the budget's big enough. I just think from what I can see, my early observations of League One as it is now in this era is the players aren't, dazzling superstar players. The teams are just solid and they grind it out. And Lee Gregory said that when he signed, didn't he? You have to grind it out in this division. So I don't think that the sort of player you need to survive, I don't think it's expensive superstar material. So I don't think there's a budget problem. I think Clough's got his way, which he won't change for anybody. But I've got faith, and I'm not worried, because he does know the division so well. And it's a 46-game mega marathon. We're 3 games in, and the gut says we'll still stay up. I think we'll be all right. But it's obviously the reality is setting in now. It is a new level. But I think we'll be okay. I do.
Well, let's have a look at this comment from a podcast OG. I'm going to class him as an OG camp, because he is. He was there in season 1. That's what counts. Simon Mercer's there. Hope you're well, my friend. We definitely need to have a go and have another Costa, don't we? And get you back on the pod. Now the boys have grown up a little bit. He says, I'm back at one call on Saturday. Can't wait. In my opinion, hopefully we will keep hold of DKD and kick on with the season. As soon as this is sorted, I think we will see the DKD of last season. I think we do need a defender before Saturday. What do you think? Alan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take it. I don't think we do need a defender. That's just my opinion. Let's have a forward and a midfielder. I think the defence will sort itself out eventually when we get players back. We've just got to struggle on for the time being, but who knows? Nigel might have a defender. He said he was looking in the next 48 hours, weren't it? He said one of them should be in place, and the other one, it was open for 2 and possibly 3 out. But who knows? One might be a defender. It might be cards close to the chest type of thing.
You've also got to look at it the other way. You can't bring in unless those go out, and obviously big rumours of Tom Nichols. Happy birthday, by the way, Tom. You buggering off later this week.
That would have been the post after the birthday post.
Imagine.
That would have been so funny.
But nothing against Tom Nichols. He will always go down as, I think, it's just like the team from last season. that got us over the line will always go down in Mansfield folklore for getting us out of bloody League Two finally. The only reason he came is because we couldn't get Lee Gregory.
True facts.
So it's harsh on them, but it's same again. Swan, I think, is an interesting one. I think if we can send him out on loan to another League Two club, let him develop a little bit more, because the frustrating thing with Swan is brilliant player. Didn't turn up till Christmas both seasons that we had him. Once on loan and obviously on permanent, and then this season he's not had a sniff, because why would he? But he's got enough time in his career left that if he did well in League Two again, and then possibly go out on loan at another lower League One club, or paid a bit part role in our team going forward, it is still time for him to develop. Whereas Tom Nichols is a couple of years older. It's very much he wants to be playing first team football, as does Swanee. But I think Tom's 29, 30. So he's as a striker in the way that he plays, it's very much sort of like on the back end of his career. So if you're gonna get your minutes, you've got to get them where you can. And if it's not at Mansfield, then thank you for your service, and we wish you all your best, whether that's a permanent or a loan.
Time will tell, of course. Transfer window shuts at the end of the week, and on next week's podcast, we'll review all the, or lack of, transfer action. But first, we need to turn our attention to something else, because the Lincoln game has come and gone, and now it's time to play a game. I was thinking of a rhyme, couldn't think of one. So can you be the master or an embarrassing disaster? In this guessing game, there's a simple aim. It's outguess the rest and be the best. Win, lose or draw. Do you know the score? Who will be your hero to make sure you don't score zero? Yes, it may be fiction, but this is Podcast Predictions. So, earlier on, we said that Clive had been loaned out to the Scarf Bagara War podcast for the night as their sort of guest pundit, as they do every single week. He's kicked us off, Alan, by saying, and I believe I've read this right in the little private one here. A defeat, we're going to lose 3-1, and Boateng will be his choice of fantasy captain. Yeah. Looking at what he's written in the private chat, would you agree that he's gone for a defeat? Because he's not specified it.
Yeah, because you always say your own team first, the score. Yeah.
Not in this game, you say win, lose or draw. Cam, win, lose or draw.
Draw.
And what will be the score?
1-1.
And who's going to be the hero to make sure you don't score zero?
Jordan Bowery.
Wow, nice, good one. Alan, what will win, lose or draw?
Win.
What will be the score?
2-1.
And who will be the hero to make sure you don't score zero?
DKD.
Jim, what will win, lose or draw?
We're going to lose 2-1.
Didn't even let me do the rhyme there. And who's going to be the hero to make sure you don't score zero?
We'll have
I am going to go for a 1-1 draw, and the person who will make sure I don't score zero, I'm going to pick as Uncle Stephen.
Uncle Stephen.
Uncle Stephen's been picked. As always, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can find the link in the description, and all the rules are there for you to see as well. It explains all the point system, what you have to do, but the clue is in the rhyme. Win, lose or draw. And what will be the score? Who will be your hero to make sure you don't score zero? So all you've got to remember, play along via the link in the description, and the first table of the season is out next week. Now, earlier on in the podcast, it felt like the mood was getting us down a little bit. And we were having a little bit of a chat and things like that before the podcast started. And Clive was like, oh, am I going to miss out on any features and things like that? And Alan, what did you say to him?
I said the only thing you're going to miss out is what's in Craig's bucket.
Well, is he or not? It's time to find out with the random game generator. I did not intend for this to be a weekly feature, but here we are.
Content. Let's engage. Game selectors. Players stand by. What's in Craig's bucket?
Yes, Alan requested it, so here it is. You've got Alan to blame for this one. We are going to play another game of What's in Craig's Bucket. A reminder of how What's in Craig's Bucket works, just to cheer us up, no need to look so gloomy. I have a bucket. Inside it, there is a loosely related Mansfield Town item. You have got, because there's less of us this week, I'm going to give you 4 questions each, which I can only answer yes, no, or maybe. Jim, you with us so far?
Yeah.
This is the order that it's going to go in. It will be Jim, then Cam, then Alan. In that order, you get 4 questions each, and then Alan, you make your guess. Don't guess. Don't waste it. So here we go. It's quite simple. Remember, Jim, it's an item in my bucket. It's a loosely Stags-related item. Let the guessing commence. Jim, you're up first.
Hang on. Right. So is it 70 grand in bundled cash?
No. And that's not going to help you work out what it is. Cam.
Is it a item of clothing?
Technically, yes. Alan.
Is it a small item?
Depends how big it is.
Oh, is it naughty?
Say that again, mate. Sorry.
Is it a naughty item?
No, no. Cam.
Would it stop you from getting wet?
Ooh. Technically, yes. Alan.
Oh. Does it cost more than a £5?
Yes. I would say comfortably yes. Jim. Third question.
I guess what it is, yeah.
No, not yet.
Does it keep you warm?
Yes. I would in fact say that the particular area would make it very sweaty. Cam.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Would you have one on your left and right?
Yes. Alan.
Oh.
Things there.
And do the one that's on the left and right, do they have a Stags badge on them?
No. Jim, 4th round of questioning. Make it a good one.
Can you buy it in our club shop?
No.
Actually, I think at one point you probably could buy a version of this in our club shop, which would have had a Stags badge on. So to complicate matters further, I'm going to say yes.
Oh.
Cam.
Would this keep? Oh, I don't know. Is there technically 5 of these things?
No.
No. Right. Okay.
I know where it's going.
Alan knows where I'm going with that.
Yeah. You know this thing, Craig, can you sometimes put a battery inside of it? I'll tell you why in a minute.
No, you can't. Please tell me. Please tell me why.
Well, when I've give you the answer.
Right. There's your 4 questions.
Unless somebody beats me to it.
There's your 4 questions. It's now time to have a guess. Jim, you said you wanted to guess 2 questions ago, so you're up first. What's in Craig's bucket?
A hoodie.
Cam, what's in Craig's bucket?
A pair of gloves.
He's
Alan,
done me. I say pair of gloves.
Bucket.
Pair of gloves.
Do you know what? I am going to give a point to Cam and Alan, although technically you would be wrong, but in this instance you are right because there is just one glove,
Oh,
and glove that somebody found at the ground ages ago, which I then took home from Football in the Community. So technically, Cam and Alan are right. It is a glove. Well done to them. A glove was what's in Craig's bucket. And just as the game finishes, look who's back. It's Clive.
Can I just say, Craig, the battery, you can get heated gloves. You put a battery inside them.
me asking if there's technically 5 of these things. We've got 5
fingers.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
As soon
It
as
sounds like I've missed a riveting competition.
Yeah,
actually,
you've missed Craig's bucket. You have been on a half hour.
Like a hand in a glove.
That's it. You have been on a very brief loan deal, Clive, to the Scarf Bagara War podcast. Fill us in. What have you been up to? What have they been saying before we end tonight's show?
Well, very little comment, very little sense was spoke by any party in the whole thing. It was all a bit silly, really, which I enjoyed thoroughly. I mean, they want to know how we're going to get on this Saturday. I explained to them that half the team's out of form and the other half are injured, and they sympathise quite rightly. I've said I think that it'll be the easiest game they're going to have all season, and they think I'm trying it on. I'm not quite sure I am actually. But they're delighted to find themselves top of the league after 3 games, but they don't. They're a bit like us. They're fatalists. They don't think it's going to last. But they've got a strong side and a strong squad, and they've acquired some really good players recently. So I think they'll do very well this year. And I only hope they do better than Wrexham. I've said to them, if somebody offered me 4 from the bottom this year, guaranteed, I'd take it, because as long as we survive this year in League One, we can work with that next year. And that to me is an element of success. In reality, is if and I said to the guys, if we get some of these injuries sorted out and the players that we've got that we know can play well find the form that they need to play well, then we're a good mid-season prospect, a mid-table prospect this season.
Absolutely. Now, did they give you the transfer fee?
I've negotiated it up to 3 curly whirlies on the basis that the 15 minutes was half an hour. I just thought, it's right, isn't it?
Yeah. I totally agree. It's a curly whirly. That's a curly whirly for you, curly whirly for me, curly whirly for Alan, and then Cam and Jim can do rock, paper, scissors to who buys the 2 for them. You're up for that. That seems fair, right?
I got the bucket question.
You can have it, Cam, because I don't eat chocolate.
Oh, there you go. So you've got to buy your own, though, Cam. Got to buy your own. There is one more thing to talk about before we... Well, 2 more things, actually, to talk about before we go. The last one's a silly one, so we'll leave that until the end. The first one, though, Clive, is Friday nights. We're going out. We're going to the big marquee. We're going to see John and Carolyn speak about their time at the club and give a bit of an interview. What are you expecting from the night?
I'm expecting some really stupid questions from Stags fans. There'll be a bit of arse licking, I'm sure. And I understand that. We're all grateful for what the owners have managed to do for this football club. And there'll certainly be an awful lot of that. I think somebody will be asking questions around the club shop and the horrible Castor relationship. There's inevitably going to be questions about the development of the Bishop Street side. And they'll ask questions inappropriately of the owners about player acquisitions and stuff, I'm sure. I'm not sure what I want to ask if I get the chance at all. I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest. I just think I'll sit and wait and listen.
Jim, I've got about 2% battery left on my phone, so I'm going to throw to you before my phone dies and I have to turn it off. I don't think you're going on Friday night, are you, first and foremost?
No.
No. If you were to ask a question, what would your question be to the Radfords?
God, to be honest, I ain't really got one. But I've sort of thought of is the fact that this evening is on the night of the transfer deadline, isn't it? So I wonder if there's going to be some big unveiling of somebody, to coincide the evening with them. I don't know. It just seems uncanny timing.
Now, we know that we love a dramatic signing announcement, so I can now see someone being flown down on a chopper and piggybacked up by Radford or something. I don't know.
Players are doing a signing before as well.
The team photo as well is also happening on the
Yeah.
day. Never know. Jim, thanks for your time tonight. I will catch up with you on Saturday. Yes, take care and goodbye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
See you, Jim.
Jim.
See you, Jim.
Right. Same to you two, Alan and Cam. Your opportunity to ask a question to the Radfords. What topic of conversation? What question would it be? I'll start with Cam.
I mean, I can't ask a question because I'm working.
Oh God, are you there?
I'm providing PA.
Oh, is it too late to give our tickets back?
Yeah, tickets back. There's 2 tickets up for grabs if anyone wants them.
Mine is.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, can't go.
I wouldn't be allowed to ask a question, but mine would be relating to the Bishop Street stand, and if and when would we possibly see some renderings of the plans? Because we've got it in words, but would we be able to have a visual, something visual to look at, just so we can really have a look at it, to be honest? I think obviously they're very much keeping it under wraps, which is fine, but they've already spoke about exactly what they want to do. So can we see it?
Well, what you can't see, Cam, and I had a look the other day, if you go onto the County Council website planning page, there's no planning application.
I check that regularly just to see, out of curiosity, because it would be on there. But then again, they might have also asked the council not to put anything on there until everything's set in stone with what they want to do. It's very much up and down when you do planning permission, isn't it?
It's a statutory obligation to.
Oh yeah, I know it is, but I mean, like the council could put something up already and say, like, oh, they're planning to do this, but well, if they're planning it, if they've not put the application in yet, who's to say that they know exactly what they're doing, and they might have changed it a million times?
I have some sympathy with the club because they want to be as flexible as they can given the circumstances they're in. But what they are doing at the moment, seemingly, is preparing for development in that they're making improvements to the existing structure and the land that they own around it, which doesn't require planning permission, as far as I understand it. But as soon as you start putting new foundations in or whatever, then there's got to be a planning application put in. So maybe it's ready to rumble, and they're not quite ready to. I honestly, without sounding sceptical, I don't think they'll want to do too much this year until they've seen whether we can retain our place in League One this year.
Yeah,
because if we get relegated, I don't think there'll be any great compulsion to push forward with it.
I think this is a topic of conversation, Alan, which will come up quite often. My question to Mr. Radford says Richard would be Castor. Why? Alan, what would your question be?
I would ask both John and Carolyn what their aspirations are for the season 24/25.
Well,
you're all missing the biggest question of all, and that, of course, is
favourite biscuit.
Your favourite biscuit. Yeah. So there you go. Although I do have another one which can be asked, and that is what their opinions are on this half and half tattoos. Has anyone seen this in the media?
Yeah, so
Someone, the solution there is one of those legs has to be amputated.
Which one was it? Can you have more than one football team? Cam, I'm going to ask it to you because you've had Salford, you've had Rotherham, you've had where else you've lived. You have followed a number of different teams, and you've had a number of different teams on your CV as well. So, can you have two different teams?
I mean, firstly, Simon's in the comments got to be Photoshopped. No, that is definitely not. If it is, it's a very good one. Thanks. I don't support any other English team. I follow Canadian football. which it's a different country. I think that's fair game. But in the same
Breaking news: Canadian football is played in a different country.
Well,
Hey!
I think if it's a different country, yes, but definitely not in the same. You can't support two teams in the same country.
I would agree. Alan, what's your thoughts on this? Have you got a secret Stags tattoo somewhere?
No, I always said that if I had one, it would just be playing MTFC. Although I've never had one done yet. No, but I'm one team and one team through. The only other team I do support is England.
I did ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Clive, if you could have a Stags tattoo anywhere on your body, where would it be?
Well, if I'd have to use an abbreviation to put it where I think it would go because there's enough room for the full title.
What, the MTFC?
I might have to stop after MT.
I don't know. I think your nose is big enough to get MTF on it. Oh dear, shocking! I know.
I don't like tattoos. I'll be honest with you. I think they're pointless. But everybody's entitled to their own view, and a lot of people swear they love body art, and that's fine. But it's not for me.
No, not for me either. Anyway, thanks so much for all your comments. Do feel free to say hello on Friday night if you're going to go down to One Call Stadium and see the Radfords and things like that. If that Forest tattoo was changed to oh yeah, I know. Imagine. Yeah, Cam, you might want to go and get yours lasered off.
Oh, shut up! I've not got any of that stuff anymore. I got rid of it all.
Should have let us burn it live on the podcast.
Nah, I gave it away to their one of their physically disabled teams. A lad lived around the corner from me, so I gave it to him.
Fair play.
I did a good deed.
Yeah, it atoned for your dreadful error of delving in those waters in the first place. But we'll forgive you. We've battered you enough over that, and we'll continue to do it at Christmas when you're in here. And we can actually physically batter you because that's the best form of battering.
Batting you with a curly whirly.
Yeah, be careful. You'll get arrested for saying these hurty words.
Well, I don't know. But as I say, in every single podcast, the views broadcast in the show or expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individuals and not those collectively of Mansfield Matters. So there you go. Right, Alan, let's wrap this shabazzle up. Back to One Call Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Stockport County. The best remedy to get over Saturday is bouncing back with victory, right?
Yeah, and let's put his chances away. Let's get Will Evans and Gregory firing and get DKD back to his best so he can be man of the match.
Clive, they say, we're talking about the best remedy to bounce back from defeat is victory, but equally as important at this point is a clean sheet. And if I'm right in thinking, Stockport are yet to concede, so could be a tough one.
Yeah, if you remember last year, we won at their ground 2-0 against all expectation.
Yeah.
And, I've said to them today, I said, that was the point in your season when you just flew away. After that disappointing result against us, you never looked back. And I think they need to give us some credit for that. And the way they do that is to allow us to score against them on Saturday. I think it's going to be a tough one Saturday. I think they are rightfully up for it. And they don't have the injury crisis we've got. And I think their recent acquisitions are really solid. And I think they are a team to watch this year. And it wouldn't matter to me if we lost as long as we give a good account of ourselves.
Fair play. Cam?
Good opportunity.
Yeah, no one cares. Right, let's wrap things up and say good night, shall we? Thanks, as always, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel, which tonight consisted of Cam Felton, Alan Wilson, Clive Parkin, and Jim Evans. And we'll be back with you next week. But can the Stags bounce back after a reality check? It may well have been a 4-1 defeat at Lincoln on Saturday, but that's been and gone. The only thing the Stags can focus on now is what's in front of them. And what's in front of them is a Stockport County side who came up with us. They're doing well in the division at the moment, but at some point, they've got to have the reality check that we had last weekend. So why not let us be the ones that deliver it on Saturday, if that makes sense. Play along with podcast predictions. The link that you need is in the description right now. A reminder that you must submit your prediction no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Saturday afternoon, and we'll reveal the full league table from the first 4 games on next week's show, whereas we'll also cast our eye back on the transfer window as well. That's all we've got time for tonight. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Win, lose, or draw.